Hello, this is Virtualis the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. My heart often sinks when facing against an Italian game, so I felt awesome doing well in this match. So obviously I had the black pieces in this match, and as you can see, almost, almost 100% accuracy. So really pleased, no inaccuracies, no mistakes, no blunders, 97. Opponent still played pretty well, almost 82, very equal, and then I capture the lead. Let's have a look now at the analysis. Opponent starts with e4, e5, bishop c4. I'd play knight f6. They develop knight f3, and now I play knight c6. Basically, we've, even though the move order is a little bit unusual, the opponent started with the bishop's opening, we've transposed to the two knights defense of the Italian. So more usual be e4, e5, then knight f3. I play knight c6, then the bishop, and then I would play knight f6 to form the two knights defense. We sort of played a different order, but basically we've transposed to the two knights defense, and I'm inviting the opponent to do the knight attack because I don't really like playing the Giuoco Piano. My opponent, however, develops their other knight, so we're now in the four knights defense, and I develop my other bishop, bishop c5, very symmetrical. d3, I decide to play h6 first, so blocking either the bishop or the knight into that square. And here they make the first move that's sort of not in theory, which is bishop e3. Now, against bishop e3, I like, let's get rid of that arrow, I like to capture. And my logic here is that because I'm putting my pawns onto dark squares, my dark square bishop is my weaker bishop compared to the light square bishop, which would be able to pass through the lines of pawns through the light square diagonals. For the opponent, their pawns are on the light squares, and so their dark square bishop is potentially their good bishop. So my logic here is I'll capture, they'll be forced to capture back, doubling their pawns. And that's what I did. Now, technically, according to Stockfish, it's actually not that bad for white, but logically in my mind, it still kind of makes sense. And as it turns out for the opponent, they don't quite navigate this doubling of pawns, and it actually makes it worse for them in the medium term, in the next few moves. I now play d6, opening up my diagonal for my light square bishop. They now push d4, and I thought if they capture, yeah, that's fine. I'll take back. So first things, I move bishop to g4, pinning the knight to the queen. So apparently that gives some advantage to white. They preferred me to capture, but I thought that would just undouble their pawns. h3, so immediately asking the question, what is my bishop doing there? I thought, look, I don't want to capture here because that would just help the opponent develop their queen. So I thought I would potentially go back here to target that pawn if they decide to push the other pawn, and they do. Now that means that the defense of the king is very weak on the king side, which means if they want to move the king out of the center, it would really only make sense to castle on the queen side. So I thought that was okay. Bring the bishop back to g6. Now I've got two pieces targeting that pawn with only one defender. Opponent captures. I thought that's cool. I'll capture back with the knight. I thought this was a little bit more forcing because here it potentially is check. I could also potentially capture that bishop. Most logically, they will capture and I'll capture back with pawn, and that's what happened. Queens now look at each other, and I thought if they capture, that would be that's potentially good because then I control the open file with my rook. However, they decided to bring the queen to f3 to provide an extra defender. So 1, 2. I've got two attackers, so now it's balanced. Now let's just move that arrow out of the way. So what was I thinking here? So I thought if I could somehow get my bishop on to capture the pawn on e4, that would potentially be very powerful because the queen and the rook are lined up. So it'll be a really nice skewer. Now, at the moment, I can't because that square is also defended by that knight. So I thought, look, how could I disable that knight? Well, if I could pin that knight, so if I could somehow get my queen here and pin the knight to the king, then that removes the knight as a defender because it's an absolute pin. It cannot move at all. So how could I get my queen here? Well, I would need to move the c pawn out of the way. So I thought c6 would potentially be quite a good move because it also defends the d5 and b5 squares, which means that that knight cannot sort of infiltrate into those two squares. So I thought that looked pretty good to me. And so that's what I did, c6, and I was very gratified to see in the analysis that that was in fact the best move. Opponent brings a rook, so rook d1 to threaten the queen. That's fine. I was actually going to move the queen to this square anyway, now pinning the knight to the king. And here was a moment of truth. Will the opponent see this trap? And they don't. h4. So they decide to play very aggressively, trying to push their kingside pawns towards me. But that is a serious mistake because that knight is absolutely pinned to the king, which means that move, which is what I did, no, great move, either the queen or the rook is definitely going to be lost in the next move. And in fact, here my opponent opted to resign, and you can see -6.5 advantage to black. Good game, GG. Two takeaways from this game. 1, use pins to prevent opponent piece movements. And 2, when your piece gets pinned, make a conscious effort to evaluate the consequences. I hope you found this video interesting, and thanks for watching.